Welcome back. It's 9:12, and we want to continue our discussion this morning on prescription drug abuse. It is the country's fastest growing drug problem, partially due to how easy pills are. They're easy to get. More than 70% of those who abuse prescription drugs get them from a friend or even a relative, and overcoming that addiction is a tough battle. It can last years. To speak on the recovery process, I'm joined by Phil Valentine. He is the executive director of the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery. Good to see you again, Phil. You've been on the program before. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let's talk about addiction to painkillers, because it is easy to get these. You can either just tell a doctor you feel pain and you want them, or you can get them from friends maybe. I've heard that, relatives. How bad is it? What are you seeing at your center?
I think that this whole idea that relief is in a pill is very appealing to a lot of people, and I think that's the trap. You know, even last year I had some serious medical problems. I was at stage 4 cancer of the tongue, of all things, and I was prescribed 3 heavy narcotics. And for me to get off of that, and I was very conscious of it, my wife was very conscious of it, it took me, once I stopped, 12 weeks of really shaken apart, full of anxiety. And so once you get onto the medication, it's very hard to get off. I know you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. Do you think some doctors are just prescribing these painkillers too easily, too readily? Is it just, you've got some pain, here you go, and then somebody takes the drugs from the doctor's in the white coat, and you just trust what a doctor says, and if they've given it to me, then it must be okay?
I think that's part of it, and I think that you want to be very open about what you're doing with your medication. I mean, I think a person knows if they start taking it 10 minutes earlier than they're prescribed, or 20 minutes earlier, or they double the dose, then you're starting to monkey around with how the medication was prescribed. I don't want to say that all doctors have that problem. There might be a few that overprescribe, but if you're working the system, and the system is starting to recognize this fact, you can find the prescription medication. Think of there's drugstores on every corner now. So there's being so much produced. Where does it all go? And
so many people do it that it almost just seems like, well, everybody else is on it. Why not me? It sounds like it's okay. It seems like there might be two kinds of people. They're the ones who are injured or have a medical issue, and then they're prescribed these prescription drugs, these painkillers, and then they continue to take them maybe because they like them. And then there might just be the individual who hears about these prescription painkillers and thinks, well, I like maybe doing some other kind of illegal drugs, and maybe OxyContin might be a good way to go. It's easier to get. I'll just tell my doctor I've got some pain.
Well, it's real expensive on the street, that's for sure. So, I think the flip side of that, though, no matter what you're addicted to, is there is recovery. There is hope. And that's what CCAR is all about, is offering hope and people who have been down that road, so that we can share our experience, strength, and hope, and show them that there's a better way than being hooked on pain medication. I remember one day I was looking at this pill and I was despondent. This was back last year when I was in this treatment, and because I was trying to get off of them, and I became despondent, and I was rolling the pill, and my wife said, you didn't take your medication, did you? And I said, no. And so I took my medication reluctantly. In a half hour, it was this euphoric feeling comes over you, and you feel like life is great. But then that's a hill, and there's always a valley.
Sure.
And the more you take, the higher the hill, the more the valley, and it's a roller coaster ride. It's no way to live. It's really difficult.
About 30 seconds left. How does the addiction to painkillers compare to, say, the addiction to heroin, cocaine, any other kinds of drugs, maybe even cigarettes? They say that sometimes that's harder to kick than heroin.
They're all extremely difficult. I wouldn't say, I think it's an individual case by case of what might be hard to come off of, but painkillers are an opiate. They are just like heroin. Very difficult to come off of, but there is hope. There's treatment available, and there's thousands of people in recovery from them in Connecticut.
Where should people go to get some help?
Well, you can always look at 211, call that number, the DEMIS website, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, or simply call us at CCAR and say 860-244-2227.
Phil Valentine, good to see you, Phil.
Thank you.